Actually, I thought about the next time that I have to do that. What if I could come up with some really cool thing to read? It'd really throw it off. Actually, I thought about the next time that I have to do that. What if I could?
There we go. I think now
We're good.
Star spin.
Okay. It's here plus 5, and so we'd like to go ahead and call this Santa Clara City Council work meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here tonight. Appreciate you being here. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present a full council tonight. Councilman Ben Shakespeare, Councilwoman Lena Mathis, Councilwoman Krista Hinton, Councilman Denny Drake, and Councilman Jarrett Waite. Appreciate everybody being here. I'd like to begin the meeting with a call to order, which I just did. Second thing is communication and appearances. Do we have anybody come to address the council on an issue tonight other than what's on the published agenda? Tom, did you have something? Okay, I'll need you before you leave to fill out one of those orange forms, but go ahead and come on up. State your name and your address for me.
Yes, Mayor, City Council. My name is Tom Contreras. This is my wife, Mary Contreras. I'd like to give recognition to Chief Flowers. We couldn't have a better chief as far as our city and actually Southern Utah. On April 3rd, my daughter and her fiance were on their way to Mesquite on Highway 18. They were both tragically killed by a drunk driver. Bob Flowers, I couldn't give any more recognition. I've known Bob for 30 years. Mary was not in the home to receive the call that our daughter was in an accident. I called Bob and he graciously went over to our home. I was in California. Bob graciously went over and found Mary along with, he went with a female deputy or police officer and let Mary know of the tragic accident. He went on with Mary to go to the mortuary to identify our daughter. He again went on with the female police officer and went back to our home and was willing to stay with Mary until I came from California the next day. That's the kind of person that Bob Flowers is. I've known him as a friend for 30 years. I've worked with him in law enforcement, having been a federal officer for 30 years. And Bob's career has just nothing but been successful everywhere he's gone. From the chief of our city of St. George to being the assistant for the governor during the 2002 Olympics and working for FEMA and then working for Ivans. I would just like to give our total recognition and thanks to Bob Flowers for not just being a friend, but being an honorable law enforcement person. We don't hear a lot of good things about law enforcement anymore with all the news. Santa Clara, we're very lucky. And again, I want to thank Bob and I want to thank you for allowing Bob to be our chief. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. I wish Bob would have been here for that.
Be here at 5:30.
Yeah, he called and said he was running late. So it's good seeing you, Tom. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other communications or appearances? Okay, we'll jump down to the working agenda. Under 3A general business, number 1, BMX update. We've asked Brooke if she would come and give us an update. She gave some of the staff members an update. And so we've asked her to come and kind of let us know what's going on up there and what the plans are.
All right. So this is Chad.
Need to introduce you both, names and addresses if you can, Brooke.
Okay. So Brooke Seeley, address 1869 North, 2500 West, St. George, Utah. And then you want to.
Chad Christian, 1375 West, 540 North, St. George, Utah.
And Chad, you're with?
I'm with Santa Clara BMX.
Okay, all right. Making sure.
Yeah, it's just been a while. I think the last time I was in front of you guys was when we were like signing the lease, like, what was it, 3 years ago or whatever. But I know we had like a lot of stuff that we were like, we hope that this happens. Well, they wanted me to come and and kind of tell you where we're ranked and all that. So we are the #1 track in the state of Utah. Is that better? And it goes off of a point system. So Rad Canyon's never been beat in all the time that they've been a USA BMX track. And so 20 years that they've been the #1 track in Utah. There's 9 tracks in Utah, and last year we got it from them. So that means we'll have the state championship here in September. So that's how they like award the tracks. Like there's qualifiers throughout the year, and then the track with the most points, they get to hold the state championship. So September 10th, we'll have the state championship here at our track. First time in 20 years that it hasn't been in South Jordan at Rad Canyon. So pretty awesome. We're in the region. So out of like 117 tracks in our region, we're ranked 13th. And then out of the 311 tracks in the United States right now, we're ranked 31st. So pretty awesome for, like in 3 years. Yeah. I mean, we've been, I think, open too. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. But we've just got a lot of cool stuff going on out there. If you guys ever have a chance to make it out there, like one night, it's pretty awesome. We like our rider count has grown so much in the last year. When we opened back up, I think we had it was like 26 motos, I think, which is a lot of motos. That's like what the top Vegas tracks are pulling on local nights. So kind of cool. Our oldest rider we have come out is 73. And he comes out every single week. And our youngest, I think, is like under a year old. So pretty broad, spectrum of riders. We've got grandparents racing with their kids, moms and dads racing with their kids. I mean, it's literally like a family sport for all ages. So it's kind of cool. And this month in July, when the July issue comes out in Pole Magazine, we'll have a 2-page spread. So we'll bring that in to show you guys. They are going to just talk about how just the track got built and how we're a nonprofit and just kind of the different things we're doing. Cause we've focused a lot on when we were building, like with the special needs, having all that. Well, it's kind of taken off. And we have a little girl that had a stroke when she was like 2 years old, and her favorite thing to do was ride a strider. And she was kind of starting to like go downhill, and they decided to bring her out to the BMX track to let her little sister come out. And she got so excited when she saw everything. So they asked if she could ride the track. And we were like, absolutely, So her dad pushed her on the track, and it's like changed her whole life. Like she comes out every practice and every Thursday night and races, and her dad pushes her in a stroller. And it's like a specially made stroller, has suspension and stuff. And it's literally changed her life. Like her teachers called her mom and dad and said, what's she doing differently? Because she's happy. And they said, she's racing BMX. And so it's kind of cool to see just like life-changing things happen with like kids. And they've now started like a nonprofit in her name, and they're trying to raise money because these strollers are $5,000. And so they're raising money in her name to buy strollers for the track so that we can get more special needs kids out there to be able to try it out, because it's just so awesome. She brought her best friend out and tried it. Like they shared the stroller, and she absolutely loved it. If you ever get a chance to go on Instagram, look at some of our reels that we've posted, because it is just cool. So, but yeah, it's been awesome. We've just had lots of people that come from all over and love it. Like we're trying to get, we're trying to get pit row done right now so that we have room, because parking's kind of like a little struggle when we have the bigger races and stuff. But we've got the bathrooms all donated from Suba and concessions. So we've got the plans almost done, and then we'll get started on that. And hopefully we'll have that done before our state championship this September. But it's been awesome. And thanks to you guys for letting it happen. And it's just been great. So we do have the best. Santa Clara is the best city. I want to put that on because you guys are. I've talked to lots of track operators all over the country, and they always ask like how it was done and all that. And like when I tell them like what you guys did and stuff, they're like, well, our city won't do that. And it's like, I know it's hard, but you guys are great. You're the reason why it got done. So we thank you, and it's awesome. But do you have anything else you want to say? Yeah, so this year, we'll have 71 state champions. Like,
From here.
yeah. So pretty cool. We've got kids that started a year ago that are now riding on factory teams. We've got kids that are riding on like worldwide teams. I mean, it's pretty crazy how much this has blown up. Kids that had never even raced BMX a year ago are now, it's consumed their whole lives and they're traveling all over the country with their families, and it's just like awesome. So we knew it would happen. We just didn't think it would happen so fast, and you know, so many families would, but it's pretty cool.
There's 4 kids that are nationally ranked top 5 in the nation from 7 years old to there's a 10-year-old.
Pretty cool.
We're gonna have an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's going crazy.
They're all from Santa Clara.
They're all from right here. So
Yeah.
thank you for what you've done and your support.
Thank you guys. You guys are putting work in up there every week. So
I feel like it's my first home, not my, like, you know, I feel like I'm there more than I'm at my own home. So, but we love it. It's awesome. So, but yeah, do you guys have any other questions or?
Mayor, obviously we need asphalt and the restrooms and that, you've addressed that. Are there other needs you have up there? I mean, there's a lot of people there.
I mean, once we get those bathrooms done and parking, like, we're good. Like, that's pretty much all, like, that needs, parking's our biggest thing. So, but
In the future, if there was some way we could get a place for RVs to come and park is huge, because there's a lot of people that travel from out of town that bring RVs.
I've already talked to,
stuff like that.
I've talked to the guy at Snow Canyon Middle School, and he said it'd be no problem if it was like on a weekend that we could, you know, put all the motorhomes in that,
a back lot.
and then just, they could go across the dam and get over to the track. And if it was all asphalted, it'd be really easy. So that's kind of what in my head, I'm thinking we'll put them over there. He said we just have to put blocks on all the state, like, you know, 2x4s under the stabilizer so that it
And
didn't
it
sink
doesn't
into the
punch you.
asphalt. But that was kind of, most people do that anyway. So we just have to have somebody there making sure everybody does it. But so yeah, I think we could make it work. I mean, unless you guys want to put an RV park in like down by the ball field or something, but
Across the street.
I've been pulling.
we
for an
would
RV
fill
park.
it.
And we can shuttle them.
You might get it eventually.
No, but yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
I just want to say congratulations. I mean, it's crazy to get that state race and to be ranked so highly so early in getting the track going. And I know a lot of people that volunteer there and that race there, and they just have such an excellent experience every time they go. And that just goes to how you're operating it.
Yeah, we do have some rules that aren't at other tracks. Like I have a no swearing rule and a no drinking rule, and I will give you your money back. And it's kind of funny because we were racing at another race the night before, and some parent was like, heard a kid swearing up in staging, and he said, "Oh, you better watch that mouth before you get to the track in Santa Clara, because you'll get kicked right out of there." But it helps like parents try to be on their best behavior while they're there, and it just helps the kids be kinder to each other. So I don't know. We kind of like, my nephew passed away in December, and we renamed corner 2 after him. And so there's a big banner that says Talon's Turn. And we just kind of all the kids have kind of like took on Team Talon. And so they always try to be better for him and for the special needs kids. So it's kind of, I hope it'll like, you know, just continue to keep growing and all that. So it's kind of cool.
I've
That's
been to
awesome.
tracks all over the country, and it's a lot different feeling. It's just so tight and such a family atmosphere that, you know, there's no tension, there's no stress, there's problem children in other tracks that aren't at our track. So the environment and the track and the area, I think's really been great for the sport and all the kids. So the older kids teach the little kids, they mentor them. It's just really cool. So thanks to you guys, we're able to
try to raise the next generation up.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah.
Okay, well, remind us again, your practice night is,
So practice night's Monday. We're gonna take a couple weeks off just because it's so hot. The next couple weeks, but then we're gonna get right back at it, and we race every Thursday night, practice every Monday night, and then we have clinics on Tuesdays and private lessons on Wednesdays. So we're there Monday through Thursday,
okay.
and most weekends too. Usually just doing stuff.
Okay,
But
well, again, thank you guys. We appreciate your efforts
thank you.
and what you've done. We'll stay in touch with the parking and gets closer to the state tournament.
yeah, you guys need to all come. We're gonna do a dinner banquet for like all the riders, and when we do the award ceremony and stuff. So you guys
Okay.
can come.
All
It'll
right,
be fun.
let us know.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, 3A2. This is chapter 12.08 sidewalk regulations and chapter 12.20 park regulation updates. Jim?
Thanks, Mayor and council members. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. The BMX stuff sounds fun, but not right now when it's so hot. Maybe all of us have tried that at one time or another in our life, but wanted to have a discussion with you about some chapters in city ordinance. In particular, section 1208 as well as 1220. And this was recently brought to our attention, and thank you, council member Mathis, for helping us out with this and letting us know that we needed to make some updates here in this particular section. In doing this, we put a small committee of city staff together, including Andrew Parker, Dustin Morrison, Scott Banyan, Matt Entz, and myself, and went through these 2 chapters to see if we could come up with some better wording. So what we're proposing here right at the beginning of 1208.010 on removal of snow is we felt, the hours were pretty restrictive, where it talks in case of a storm between the hours of 5 o'clock PM and 6 o'clock AM, such sidewalks shall be cleaned before 9 o'clock AM of the same day. That's pretty restrictive. I've seen 48 hours to 72 hours in areas that have a lot more snow. We don't have a lot of snow here in our area, our region, so we don't think that wording is needed or necessary. So we're proposing to remove that. There's just a lot of editing and cleanup here as we go through this section because it's been a while since we've done that. And some of the stuff on the remainder of the page is just kind of cleanup. We did in 1208.020 item C remove, it makes reference to a vehicle under placing trash or other obstruction in streets, gutters, and sidewalks. So we removed the reference to vehicles. As we go to the next page, we do have an edit that needs to occur, and that's in 1208.030 openings in the street. Item number C, that is supposed to say core holes, not coal holes. And so getting that terminology correct and making that change. And then item 1208.060 crossing at intersections. Talks about things that are allowed. It says it's unlawful for any person to drive or park a self-propelled vehicle or lead, drive, or ride any animal upon any sidewalk except across a street, across a sidewalk at established crossings. And then we added except for electric bicycles, scooters, and skateboards. And then the next one, 1208.070, business to keep sidewalk clean. It seemed pretty heavy-handed. In the paragraph, it says each morning before the hour of 9 o'clock AM. We just put to cause the sidewalk abutting thereon to be swept or cleaned as needed. So that could be a shop owner that sweeps it off every day or someone that does it once a week. It just as needed. The rest of the page are just kind of cleanups. If we turn to the last page of this section, 1208.090, that is cleanup. And then we go to the next one, 1208.100, playing on the sidewalk. We felt that wasn't needed and that item's been removed. And then congregating on the sidewalk, we just updated the terminology. We refer to in front of any commercial business or office, civic use or dwelling unit. And then strike out some of the remainder of that sentence. So for this item 12, chapter 1208 sidewalk regulations, those are the proposed edits that we have at this time that we would bring back to you, to the council, for you to adopt and amend city code. Did you have any questions or items on this particular section?
Questions, council?
I have one. In 1208-030 on the core holes.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of neighborhoods put up flags for different holidays. And I remember when I built my house, I went out and drilled the hole in front of my house.
Mm.
And I did not get special permission from the city council to do that. So do we need to have an exception for that, or?
Is there an officer here?
And I know like the holes are all there, but that
Right.
it just says it's unlawful to even do it. So maybe you could just research a little into that and see.
We all have-
I think what we thought they were referring to is when a utility, say as SCS comes in and does boring, as Utopia is going to be doing, they need an excavation permit to be able to make those core holes. But as far as the ones in the curbing, we've never required a permit for that.
Yeah, we
Okay.
think the core hole they're talking about would be a hole much bigger than the
Okay.
1 inch or whatever it is that the flag hole is. Be a geotechnical boring or a utility boring or a test pit or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So you
I
don't have
mean,
to pay the-
sounds like we've clarified. Do you think we need to add any language to that one, or? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we take your comment into consideration.
Okay. So that works
I
for sure.
I don't remember
Okay.
approving any that the Boy Scouts did a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember. Special approvals.
Every half.
That would be nice, because I did scouts for years and we did the flag fundraiser, and on more than one occasion, a sprinkler pipe was broke. So we as leaders had to repair those. So having holes for flags would be really nice.
And most of the city has them.
Yeah.
I've encouraged the scouts to just go an inch back, Mayor, and then if it breaks the curb, then move another inch back until they get the.
You're that.
It's all good, yeah.
You're-
And then we just patch it.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
I'll go to the next section. It's chapter 1220 park regulations. The first section is just cleanup and some editing. Item D under this section is where we did some research and added some language, which we feel is compliant with state code requirements. We add the following language: if allowed in a designated area, fireworks may be discharged July 2nd through July 5th and July 22nd through July 25th, both until midnight, December 31st to January 1st until 1 a.m., and January 31st to February 1st until 1 a.m. For Chinese New Year's Eve. And so Andrew Parker helped us with that language. And so that's current with other places throughout the state. If we go down to item number G, again, under this section, and it's just generally, we have different items A, B, C, D, and so on. We're just adding some language. It talks about no one shall test or repair any vehicle or mechanical device on any park or trail property, except for electric bicycles, scooters, and skateboards, as those are very prevalent, and we see those all over the community. Other items in this section are more just cleanup and removal of some wording that's a bit wordy. If we go to item number Q, it says no group of 25 or more persons shall use a park or trail area without first applying for and obtaining a special event permit from the city. So that's a current requirement. We get those each summer for special events and other organized activities, and that's the requirement. We just want to make sure the language is consistent. We have some references to the city and city park, and then the last item, W, use of skateboards on park property or trails other than specified skateboard venues and pedestrian walkways is prohibited. We remove that item. And so actually item X would become item W. And then if we go down to the next page, I just noticed this afternoon, if we scroll down one more, Brock, There's another section here that I missed when the packet came out. Actually, it is that wording. I'm sorry. So I'm looking at my personal document and I'm referring to that document up above now. We've deleted that item. We've recommended that that be removed from the language from this draft. And so those are the changes we looked at for this title or chapter of city code. Do you have any questions as a council?
I have a question on the group of 25.
Uh-huh.
I understand the premise if it's an event and a reason why somebody would gather, but for
Mhm.
families
Mhm.
that want to gather and have more than 25 people, we're going to ask them to come in and get a special event permit.
We have done that recently. We had a birthday party in the community where the individual applied for a special
Really?
event permit because he was planning 25 to 50 people to come to his home for a large celebration that was going to go till 11 or 12 o'clock at night with outdoor music. And so we did have them come to TRC and talk to the neighbors and then issue the special event permit.
But if
So,
you want to just use the park,
mhm,
like if I have all my kids and grandkids here and they
Right.
want to go over and use the park, I've got 25 people.
okay.
So I would have to come to the city beforehand and plan for that.
That's my understanding. I'll let anyone else speak to that, but the number 25 is in the current ordinance.
Yes, no?
So,
Okay.
That's one that, when people are hosting large events, most of them will come in, but people, I mean,
And I get
they
that.
get
I'm fine
used. I
with
mean,
that.
people use them with greater than 25. We don't police it. We don't, you know, the parks people, if there's groups out there, they don't come, hey, there's a group out here. Do they have a special event or whatever? Most of the time they happen when people have something going and they want a pavilion, they want something reserved,
Sure.
large, then they come in. But I know there's larger groups than 25 that go and use the parks, and
Okay.
that's,
Well, I think it's a good protection for the 25 people that if they're reserving it, then
Right.
they've got a right to use it. Then other people coming to use it don't have a conflict when I know that I've reserved it.
right.
Sure. I think it makes sense in most reasons. And for pavilions and things like that, I totally get it.
it's, I mean, if people want to go and use it, there's not, I mean, it's not one, like you said, we're not enforcing.
gonna
It's
go
If
and
you're
cut it
at-
off.
working, you know, at 25 and I'm like a special event, I want to host something and talks about music and things like that, then yeah, we want you to come in and
Okay.
make sure we're aware and neighbors are getting notified or that if it's, you know, next to the neighbor. So.
Other questions, council? Okay, move it forward, Jim.
Thank you. I'll bring these back to council soon, these two items.
Are you doing the next one too?
Yes, yes.
Item 3A3 is chapter 17.74, historic district mixed use, and chapter 17.76, historic district overlay zone.
I didn't. W, the reason you're excluding W is exactly why.
They're allowing them in the parks.
Yeah,
You're allowing skateboards on park property.
use of
correct?
skateboards on park property or trails other than specified skateboard venues and pedestrian walkways is prohibited. I've seen a lot of skateboards and electric skateboards, you know, in parks and on trails, quite a bit.
Right,
So,
so that's, but
Yeah.
you're saying that's fine.
right.
If I have 10 people there wanting to use skateboards on the trails.
I believe so.
Okay.
Unless if we had a skateboard park, it might be different. We could limit it to just that park area, but we hope people are in good behavior. So if we find it to be a problem, we could always bring it back. So, okay. So 1774 again, thank you, Councilmember Mathis, for bringing a few things to our attention in these two titles. A lot of it's cleanup, but clarifying a few items as well. On this first page, it's just all cleanup. And there's a bit of cleanup here. And it's pretty much the same on the second page. Where we really need to go is, sorry, if we go to 1774-120, it's the zone change. A lot of it's just cleanup and some editing. The zone change is where we want to make a change on 120. The current language says an application to rezone property or an application to rezone property of the historic district mixed use zone shall be made in the same manner as a zone change to any other zone in the city. But currently it says, except that the Heritage Commission shall be the initial review body. So recently we had a couple of items, rezonings, Mr. Stephen Hafen across the street and Mandy Gubler down behind the Merc submit applications for rezonings of property. And the code says currently we have to take it to Heritage Commission for their review. It's really not an item that they need to be reviewing. It's not anything required that I know of state code for another body to review or look at a rezoning of property and make a recommendation to a planning commission who has to have a public hearing. They make the recommendation to the city council who makes the decision because it's a legislative decision. But when we took those items to them, basically they said, fine with us. You know, the rezoning is not really our issue. We're looking at building materials and color and design and how it impacts, you know, the historic fabric of the downtown area. So as a result, we would prefer, or staff's recommending that we remove that, that it needs to go to the Heritage Commission, that we take that language out. And so that's what we want to do within this section of title. That is the big change for this particular section. Let me see if there's anything else on the next page.
A question on that.
Yes.
Page. How do they know if they're not being presented to the Historical Society? How do they know whether the colors and other things are going to be there? Do they wait for the planning and zoning?
No, they will be presented to the Historic Heritage Commission. So tomorrow, for other types of review. Tomorrow we have 2 items on the Heritage Commission meeting that are going. We have an addition to a home on Quail Street. And then we have a rebuild or renovation of the building behind Fry's Market, which is exciting. The old home that was put there on the street, on Vernon Street, the shack that's kind of fallen under, it's dilapidated. And so those are both going to the Heritage Commission for their review and approval recommendation tomorrow. But a rezoning of property really isn't under their purview. I mean, they're going to look at all of these other items. Mandy Gubler's site plan has to go back with the architectural review and materials and building design. That's going back anyways, even though, they looked at a rezoning and said, we don't really care so much about the rezoning. We want to know what the building looks like, what the height is, the materials. That's our area.
So I just didn't want to circumvent that.
Yeah.
This just makes it more consistent with the duties that are outlined in the actual ordinance for the Historic Commission. Because zoning isn't a part of it.
They're still going to be doing all the architectural
Yep.
review and
All the site plans, colors.
just happens after the zoning.
Yep.
And then we have 1774-130 site plan review, item A, existing conditions. Again, it's just updating the document. Right now it says a disc shall be submitted showing the property survey. We put a flash drive and or electric copies shall be submitted. We're not getting the big floppy disk anymore. I remember those. So some people may not, but
he's still using them.
Yeah. I'm old enough.
I'm the only one that can still use a floppy disk.
I had a class years ago and they taught us how to use that. How long did that work for me? Not too long. But so really that's about it in that particular section. Those are the main points. Moving on to chapter 1776. Really, it's a cleanup of this title. I think it's needed. I want to make sure that we're consistent in our wording under definition 1776-020. I wanted to say Heritage Commission. Right now it just says Commission and then it says Heritage Commission of the City of Santa Clara. City Council, the City Council of the City of Santa Clara. Planning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Santa Clara. So if we turn to the next page under 1776-050, Heritage Commission. So it makes reference to commission, not the Heritage Commission. It makes reference to the Planning Commission, but then makes reference to the commission again. So I think it's a bit confusing for applicants, people that would use the code, as well as city staff. So we just want to make reference and make it clear. We have a Planning Commission, we have a Heritage Commission, and we have a City Council. So it's a cleanup. And then we get into, instead of commission duties in 1776-060, it's Heritage Commission duties. We've added the term Heritage Commission. And then just clean up and some editing throughout the document. So the next title, 1776-070, Review and Permit Procedure. Item B, it says when a request for a building permit is made to the city based upon an exterior design proposal, the Heritage Commission shall review at a minimum. And instead of I've struck site plan, I put the exterior design of buildings, architectural treatment, landscaping, design of signs, and other related items to the building. Now, my concern with site plan is, and we've had this come up recently, we had one where they were kind of diving into the details of a site plan and wanting to make a recommendation to Planning Commission and Council. I'm fine with them looking at that, but I don't really think that's really their duty. It's more the materials, the building design, the height, how it looks and feels and ties in with our standards. I'm a little bit concerned with them doing a site plan review saying, well, we need the ingress and egress over here. I'm not sure the parking's right. That's my concern. So that's why I've stricken it here. I don't think that's their area to really dive down into those details. And really, those are the two big items for 1776, just the clarification and the two bigger items that I mentioned. Does the council have any questions on this chapter?
Jim, I have nothing with the comments, but one question. Under 050, it talks about the makeup of the commission, but they have a chair, right?
We do.
Yes.
Should the chair be addressed and the length of service on the chair be addressed in there?
Like we do with Planning Commission.
To where you don't, to where the chair is elected by the members of the committee, and length of service of a chair could be 1 or 2 years, something like that.
I think we can do that. We can elect that. They can elect a chair each year. We did that.
We have one, and
Right.
just so that individual knows when his term's up.
We did that with the Planning Commission
Yeah, we can
rewrite.
just mirror the same language we did with
Okay.
the Planning Commission.
Yeah, we did not put a term limit on the chair, but we did change the language that they be elected, the first calendar meeting of each year to serve for that year.
That would work.
Okay.
And then are we
That's what I'll do.
okay on the existing membership appointments?
Yes.
So we're in adherence with what's on
compliance.
there?
Yeah.
Great.
Just hoping we have a quorum tomorrow, as it's a holiday week. A lot of people have taken the week of 4th of July off, so.
They'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll all be there.
They will be. I think we have 3, and that's a quorum. So, all right. Any other comments on chapter 1776? And I want to thank Matt for helping me out on these 2 chapters, 74 and 76. So these ones will have to go to Planning Commission and then come back to you, where the other titles, 1208 and 1220, can come directly to you because it's city code rather than the land use ordinance or land use code. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep. It's good. We need some updates. So.
Okay, stay right there, Jim. 3A4 is R16 zone creation discussion.
All right, thank you. As you know, we've had some discussions recently about residential projects, about multifamily zoning, about medium density zoning, high density zoning. We've had some projects and some concepts brought before the council that show quite a bit of multifamily. As you know, we've entitled a few projects in the northern part of the city in the last year. We have Desert's Edge, Robert Smith's project. Now that is zone PDR, and that's at 12 units per acre. And that does include an affordable housing component as well as townhomes. So that's one of the biggies. We've looked at some other concept plans recently, and we've kicked around the idea. As a result, we've kicked around an idea of creating a new land use district. In this case, an R16 zone. In my experience, an R16 zone is pretty common. A lot of cities have those to address low to medium density residential lot size. 6,000 square foot lot, single family, detached. Generally smaller side yards, smaller front yard, smaller rear yard, but allows a builder to still put a nice home on the lot. I've seen homes with 3-car garages on 6,000 square foot lots and maybe even a little bit smaller. So just, I want to have this discussion, or staff wants to have this discussion with the council and see if you'd like to give us a little direction on this. If we scroll down to the draft, and it's just my first attempt, it's just a draft following our current outline or template in the code. We've got permitted uses, which is similar in all our single family zones. We've got the conditional uses, we're covered there. As per state statute, right here is where we get into some of the development standards. So height regulation, I have it at 35 feet. I've had some comment back to me, maybe 35 is tall for an R16 lot. Maybe we go with 30, but 35 is our current standard, just a thought. We have this exception built into our current single family zones. It says, and no accessory building shall be erected to a height greater than 20 feet without a conditional use permit approved by the land use authority. I've discussed that with some staff, and I've been thinking about that. I'm thinking about taking that out. I don't think we want accessory structures over that height in a small lot or medium density lot size. And then right here, this language would change for the accessory dwelling unit not to exceed 20 feet. That's clear, and that's in current code right now. An ADU cannot exceed 20 feet. An accessory building may be allowed to exceed 20 feet for a garage or a shop if you go and get approval by the planning commission. So as far as the area width and yard regulations, so minimum lot size is 6,000. The width would be 50 feet, a front yard of 20 feet, side yards of 6 and 6 for a total of 12, and a rear of 10 feet. Now, I've written a few zones and I've seen a few zones where the side yards are 5 for a total of 10. And so that becomes quite tight because you get a PUE in there in those side yards, and they might use that whole distance of the 10 feet, 5 feet and 5 feet on each side for a public utility easement. Now, a lot of public utility easements are along the rear property line and front property line, but also I'm sure we do, and I know we do, we get quite a few in side yards. So that needs to be taken into account. Now, it's not an issue here as much as it is in other regions up north where a lot of basements are done. Window wells have an impact on those side yards because usually that side yard setback's measured from the foundation wall to the side yard. Usually you can have a roof overhang or an eave of up to 2 feet because it doesn't have location on the ground, but a window well can go out 3 feet. And so 3 feet plus 3 feet is 6, and then you only have 4 in between for someone to mow. So the idea here is, what are good setbacks? For me, 6 and 6 works on an R16 lot. The council may want those a little bit bigger, but I was looking at some of the other setbacks for our mixed lot zone and our R110 zone. And those are a little more restrictive, but you get bigger lots. This is a 6,000 square foot lot. And so at this point, I mean, I can keep going through this, but these are some of our thoughts and ideas. And R16 seems like a good zone that we could put in place, and builders would build to that. And the idea would be, could it possibly bring down price points because the lot size is smaller? It's not a 10,000 square foot lot. In the mixed lot size, it allows for 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, but you have to have percentages of each lot size, with I think 40 or 50% going back to the R110. This is just a straight single family zone. So if someone comes to us and says, hey, I want to do 4,000 and 5,000 square foot lots, like some of the recent concepts we've taken a look at, we're still going to encourage them to do the PDR zone. We're going to go through a PDR process to get that smaller lot. Now, If the council wants to take a look at an R15 zone, I could work on that too and come back, but that might be smaller than you want to go. R16 is fairly popular. There's a lot of subdivisions. A lot of cities have that zone as their kind of their smallest single family lot zone. And a lot of communities have been built to that lot size. And you get nice single family detached homes, nice neighborhoods, you know, pedestrian oriented, family friendly. You still have a lot, but it's a little bit smaller. I lived on an R16 lot for almost 6 years before we moved here and loved it because I could do my front and rear yard and edge in 20 minutes. That was awesome because my boys aren't around anymore to do the yard work for me. You know, an R110 lot or a half acre lot in RA can take a few hours to do that weekly yard work. So this is a nice lot size. It's an opportunity for someone who wants to do other things to still have a single family home. And I really think some of the remaining parcels in the community would look to go to this zone. I think it could be a fairly popular zone. So just throwing that out for council discussion. That's really all I have. And I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments. Thanks.
Village on the Heights, is that 6,000 square feet? They did it under the PD, so you can do it, but I like the idea of an R16. We designed a lot of R16 subdivisions. And with the land availability issues and the cost, I think we'll wait and see if it brings any more affordability into it. I think they'll just price them higher too, but
And that's what's so tough because a few years back, those R16 lots were really affordable. When you put a home on that R16 lot, and everything's changed. And that's what makes it really tough. But a price point has to be less on a lot that's 6,000 versus a lot that's 10,000. That's 4,000 square foot smaller. So,
but
yeah.
and we don't, these R16s, you're probably not going to have a lot of utilities in the side yard setback. Almost all the utilities are out in the road now, especially new subdivisions. We don't use, sometimes you'll have a drainage easement, but I think that can be dealt with a separate easement on the plat that's following the storm drains down through or the sewers. But I like it. Council? Comments?
I have two. The setbacks was the side setbacks, just with utilities that, you know, you're not going to have much running down there. My bigger thing is on the height. Do we want to consider, 35 feet on a narrower lot is
Visual impact.
It's tall. You know, do we want to bring that down to 28 or 30 or
I was thinking
35,
30.
you know, somewhere.
I've been told maybe think about 25 to 30.
Trying to think on a 2-story
Yeah.
and you're not as wide, so you're not going to have the
Right.
pitch of the roof. And so I think you could do that and still get
Second story.
10 and 10 or, 2-foot truss, put you at 22 and then 8 feet of roof structure, of a pitch and a
Right.
512 on a narrower,
Right.
or 412, you could do that. And I just think it would, I can just picture,
So what is the
R110.
pitch? Ben, you probably know of a typical craftsman style home, that pitch.
Yeah, you could
5 and 12 or 6 and 12.
Yeah,
or-
most of them are 6 and 12, but 5 and 12, you could still get that. And especially where you're narrower, you could.
Our home was a craftsman style and it was either a 5 and 12 and 6 and 12 and the city limit was 30 feet for our lot size, 30 foot in height. So
You can
just
make
a
that.
point of reference.
You can
Yeah.
make that pitch on that
Yeah.
again, because you don't have the width on it. If
Right.
you're going
Right.
on a 50 foot,
It'd be less expensive.
You don't have to go through the PD.
and then I got, and it may not matter on the setbacks and maybe just the 5 or 6 foot that's being proposed, or do you do a 5 and 7 and give a little more room to one side that may,
Or we could go even bigger, but I'm trying to allow a little bit more flexibility in that rather than just saying, okay, you gotta, have a 10-foot side yard. It is a 6,000 square foot lot. That's more narrow. I mean, it can be 50 feet wide, but it might be 60 feet wide by 100, they might lot it out that way, but we could look at setbacks. I think in the mixed lot zone, we have some 6 and 8 for 14, and that's for a 7,000 square foot lot. So I was looking at 6 and 6. I can do that comparison. I remember running the numbers in my head, but I don't have them before me. So I thought 12-foot works here, 14 works for an R17.
What
And
is
that
it in the
makes a lot.
villages? What are the villages on their side yard?
I don't know what ours are, to tell you the truth.
Probably, are they tens?
They might be.
In between
8 and
buildings?
10 is what it
They're
what it was in the
probably-
R110.
Well, that's the R110 zone, but we
Right.
created the Village on the Heights with a PD
PD,
zone and they could
Yeah,
have sized down.
they
the
might be
side.
8 and 8.
I don't think they're any more than 8.
No, I know they're narrower than the standard.
yeah. And I don't, to be honest, I don't know you could go any smaller. I mean, I'm thinking that's exactly what my lot is. And if you put a side concrete on the side
Mhm.
of it, like to park anything on the side where you have room for both neighbors to be
Mhm.
able to do that, it couldn't be any narrower than what we already have.
Sure.
I go
Well-
home and measure it and tell you what it is. I don't know what it is.
Well, and that was my only thought of giving I guess if you're 6 and 6, I mean, even if, because generally one side you're not using, but you always have the one side where
We
you're,
could do
putting
5 and
stuff-
8. And
yeah,
give
5 and
another
8,
foot.
it gives you a little
That'd
more
be
room
fine.
on that. Or
Right.
I'm not concerned on the setbacks of that, again, because utility and easements are all going to be in the street
Yeah.
and we don't, you're generally not going to have basements on that. You know, in this climate, they're going to be slab and either probably going vertical, single.
You'd be surprised. They can get a pretty good sized home on that lot.
Yeah. No, I
Some
think
good
it's,
sized homes.
I think it's a
So,
great option.
Yeah.
I think it,
We have a basement.
Let
Do you
me
have a
ask-
basement on yours?
I mean, we do have it in the PD,
mhm,
which we can review
mhm.
and discuss. If we create it as a zone, somebody comes in with 20 acres and wants to do 6,000 square foot lots. And there's a water issue, the smaller lot, still a home with 4 people is going to use the same amount of water. That creates more of a water usage than a single family lot that's 12,000 square feet. I mean, do we want to keep it in a PD area where we can talk?
Well, the problem with the PD is you do it in a PD and now you've got to build 30% open space into your PD. The PD has all the other elements in it that they have to meet as part of it in addition to the lot layout. So what the developers see when they come in and try and do this is now that 30% open space kicks in and now they've got to develop a park amenity, some other things inside the PD to make that open space work.
And is that bad? I mean, if we're going to create a 20-acre zone, do we need to have
I
a
think
park?
they're going to come in, Councilmember Drake, and ask for smaller lot sizes like
Yeah.
we've seen.
If they go
And that's,
PD, they'll go smaller.
Yeah. and all of a sudden, there's this prototype for a 4,000 square foot lot. You know,
Well, I mean,
and they're
we
trying to
have
do-
the typical one already
in
in
a-
place.
in a
I mean, the
PD,
villages
yeah.
are, how many units? There's probably
170.
170 units already in a PD. I mean, it's kind of a mirror of what we're talking about. And if it's with the PD, the way the villages came in, there were discussions on how it could be done.
Understand too, that when you do the villages, you create an HOA. You
Mhm.
created an HOA fee, common area landscaping.
Yeah.
This will let you do a similar thing to the villages, but without the HOA.
Right.
The ability for the property owner to, control what he does, and not have to answer to an HOA. And not have to build an amenity
Right.
into the development itself that mandates the HOA.
And they
So,
may
but if
elect
you do
it.
a preview of your PD zone,
Mhm.
rather than creating a brand new zone, just amend your PD zones that are requiring the
Well, I think we need to
30%
do
because
both.
our
Yeah.
water issues are going to
right.
be huge.
Right.
I
And to
think
me,
you have
that's,
less water with this.
Yes.
Than the other. This zone will be less water consumptive because they're gonna maximize the footprint of the house on the lot.
Right.
And then with our new ordinance, with our new conservation
minimize the-
ordinance, they
the
can only
landscape.
have 8 feet, 8% of lawn area with 16% total irrigated. The other thing, area per lot. The other thing I really like is public streets in a neighborhood like this. We're going to get a 50-foot right of way with nice sidewalks, pedestrian oriented, family friendly neighborhood. There's no way for them to come in and say, hey, I'm doing this PDR. I want narrow streets. Let's just get that public cross section in place and make it neighborhood friendly. get eyes on the street and make it nice for the residents that live there. Now, someone could come in and say, I want to do some park space in the middle of this project. Developers will do that. Ivory Homes, Ents Homes, DR Horton, they'll come in and say, I'm doing a standard subdivision. I'm taking it down, but I'm going to do a park space in the middle. And I might have a small HOA fee of $25 a month just for all the residents to use this park.
It almost
Something
fits,
very small.
but
So,
that would be
yeah.
a very low percentage.
correct.
Because the guys look at
Right.
this and they know that no HOA is a selling point.
Right, right,
We've limited the outdoor water use, so doing
right.
common area landscaping is a lot harder and gonna get more
Right.
expensive.
And so what you're getting out of this,
Option.
once you put your horizontal improvements in, you're getting 5 to 5 1/4 units per acre versus an R110 where you're getting 3 to 3 1/4 units per acre. R18, you'd get 4 to 4 1/4 units per acre. So 5 units per acre is pretty good. And if you read in our general plan where it talks about low to medium density, it talks about that type of unit, 5 units per acre. You know, for example, at 5 units per acre, you could do this. Well, this would allow for 5 units per acre by putting this zone in place. So,
And I think from a citizen standpoint, it's perceived differently. It's a single family normal subdivision, even though the lot size is smaller, it's perceived as a traditional single family home. And they want more of that. So if we offer it with smaller,
Are you, I haven't heard anybody complain about the villages as far as the people that live there nor the people that live around it. What I'm talking about is the PD zone gives the city a little more say in what goes in. If we create it as a zone, you have no say. You have a zone that's created, they're going to be 6,000 square foot lots, and you really have no control over what they do with that 6,000 square foot lot, except maybe your height, your side yards. Other than that, everything is a subdivision as it is in the R110.
Right.
And I'm just saying,
I would
if
move
we have
that
a
in
PD
heartbeat to that
versus
IHOA.
of PD versus the zone itself, the only thing I think you're losing is control.
So I have a question. If someone had a bigger lot, could they come back in and rezone it to this zone and end up with more homes on their property? Is that a possibility?
well, potentially, but it also depends on where they put the home on the lot. You know, people come in and want to subdivide. We do have a provision in our land development code that does allow for a flag lot. So let's say someone has a big lot. So there's a big parcel and the owner decides to carve off 15,000 square feet for his existing home and then sell the rest to the developer that does all R16s. That person could potentially come in and subdivide that one lot into 2 lots, but they'd have to put a driveway in and utilities in. So a lot without public frontage or a flag lot, they may get one.
They'd still have to comply with the underlying zone, so they'd have to go through
Right.
a zone change process.
Correct.
They'd have to comply with the general plan.
Mhm.
But the general plan has
Restrictions.
it's got restrictions at LDRs up to 40 acres. So you're not going to be able to
Right.
do an R16 and an LDR. You'd have to go to the
Right.
MDR
Right.
in order to achieve that. So you can do it, but there's a lot of hoops you got to go through in order to do it. I wouldn't see any existing platted lot subdivision.
They'd have to go through amendment with
They'd have to
every,
amend their plat and
owner.
get all their neighbors' approval. I mean, there's a pretty steep hill.
That would be
Fine to
really
do
hard
that.
in an existing subdivision situation.
Like,
They took
in a
the,
zone, that's different
Mhm.
unless it's a platted. I mean, you go through the city of St. George, the original lots were 132 by 264.
Mhm.
They just allowed them to divide them in half, and then eventually they were able to take the backs of those lots and create townhome developments in the
Back in there.
interior because it was trash.
Yeah.
And so they allowed that to happen. And
But they had zones that fall, you'd get a zone change and then you'd go through the development on it.
well, the residential, they did the 160, the 132 into the 66, they just did.
Yeah, well, but the underlying zone and the general plan was set up. so they
Right.
could. And
So,
right after the amendment.
so we have tools in place that will cause, which are precautionary things put in place. And this is something we would discuss where my experience has been with this zone is infill. So a lot of people come and they have a piece that's 3 to 5 acres and they want to do some residential. Maybe they're adjacent to a mixed lot zone. Maybe they're adjacent to an R110, but they've decided, okay, because of the unique shape of this property, it's an infill property. We can get a public road here and maybe we can get 10 or 12 lots out of it rather than just 4 or 5, 3 or 4 lots of R110. And it allows for some housing to come in and for the neighborhood to have, some new blood, new families move in. I think it would be really good. That plat's interesting. I've seen one. I remember I interned in Park City for a time years ago, and the original historic downtown plat had the minor shack lots 25 by 75, just teeny. And so nowadays you have to buy 3 and combine them to build a home. But they put shacks on those little 25 by 75 lots long ago.
I think the 6,000
Yeah.
square foot lots are great. And I
Yeah.
think the kind of developments that we've got are great as far as the 6,000 square foot are concerned. My concern is that the PD gives us control
Mhm.
and helps us in maintaining what goes there.
Yeah.
Where if we create the residential zone, if I come in with 5 acres and it's in that residential zone, I can do basically 6,000
Right.
square foot.
Well, it's not going to be because they'll have to rezone it. We don't have any properties in that zone currently. So if someone bought a piece, they'd have to rezone it to R16.
But
Well,
how
we
do
would
we
have-
turn it down?
Well, we would have both tools. We have the R16 as a tool, another option, and we still have the PDR, which Matt and I have talked about, needs some updating. That's something we need to go in and do some updates to. But I think it's good to have additional tools. And I think this really could help create some medium density residential, single family housing in the community.
Regarding the height, if you maximized a 50-foot wide and built to those setbacks at 38 feet width of house, you'd end up with 7.5 feet of roof at a 512 pitch. So 30 feet it'd be right at it. 10-foot ceilings on both, 2-foot trusses, and you could hit that pitch. So if you went to a 612, again, maximizing the full width. So I think 30 is a number if we
I
want to
had
look at that.
9-foot ceilings and then
You could do a 9
10
foot on
feet
the
in the
top.
grade.
Yeah, you could do a 9 foot with you could do
Right.
all of that in there,
Right.
but allowing 10 foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you,
Was that 35 feet measured to the peak or to the midpoint?
oh, it is the midpoint.
It would be measured to the highest point, top of the chimney,
You're sure?
top of parapet wall.
Because
That's the way I
I've
was
been
measured.
told by other building inspectors that it's the midpoint on the slope.
how about average finished grade to
It
the
should
midpoint of the,
But you're right.
I believe the definition would be to the highest point of the roof. That's what it has been in the previous definitions.
but a chimney counts on that?
The highest point of the roof, whether it be the top of a parapet, top of chimney.
Top of a band.
What about an antenna?
Yeah.
Like,
I could be a little
FAA
weak
allows
on
those.
that.
put him on the spot.
There's some pretty big antennas in the houses around me.
It works. And I'll tell you what, most homes don't have the big fancy chimney anymore
Yeah.
anyways.
I
They
think
have the
ham
flue,
radios
it's kind of
exempt.
built-in. So,
Okay.
We had them shown
Yeah.
on the plan and just deleted them.
yeah.
But again, I think 30 feet would work
Probably do.
very well to
Yeah.
get was in there and bring that height down a little bit with a narrower lot.
And I'm 5 and 8 works for 13 feet.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that, because the R17 is 6 and 8, so it's 1 foot less.
Yeah, I think all of
Okay.
that, but I like this. I like it a lot. Again, on the zone changes and things like that with infill, that's still gonna have to go through that whole process, but this gives a lot of flexibility. And frankly, I think will open the door to more single family that we've been looking for anyway.
I did get a comment from Cody, and I appreciate it, about some architectural standards, basic that design to fit in. And so we'll come up with a little wording there, just very general wording to add to the ordinance when we bring it back to you.
Yeah.
Like we have in some other chapters.
Any other questions,
Thank you.
council? Discussion? Good discussion.
Well, I think it brought up one thing. Do
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at the PD zone
Yes.
and revise that PD zone from what we have existing as far as your 30% your watering, how much landscaping you're going to require in that PD zone. I think that's all got to be reviewed and changed
Okay.
to comply with what we're trying to do as far as water.
We're gonna be bringing the subdivision ordinance back to you too, council, to incorporate the will serve requirements.
And I've done a little research on that. I'm waiting to see what from an individual I know that works at St. George, kind of what their draft subdivision changes are and how they relate to their water efficiency ordinance. Because we've adopted our efficiency ordinance. They're doing both at the same time, apparently. And not that that's going to be our template, but I want to see what their changes are, and then we'll move forward with our changes.
Theirs is a
So,
little different because
Yeah.
their subdivision ordinance is buried inside Title 10.
I got a copy and I've read through it, but I'm waiting for some more information as well. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. 3A5, discussion regarding dedication of water or a fee in lieu of dedication, response to the severe drought. Matt, you're doing this one?
I can. Excuse me. Sorry, I wasn't ready.
Yes, the answer is yes, Matt's turn.
Yes, I can if I can get my voice back. Yeah, so this is a subject that we've had a number of discussions with, on more of a staff level, just talking about ideas of things that we could do to address the water concerns that we're dealing with now. We're looking for ways to preserve the water that we currently have in Santa Clara City, both the city's culinary and also secondary water that's out there with the canal companies. We're looking for ways to strengthen the city's secondary water system. And it's something that warrants more discussion, but we also talked about how we could put something in place now to protect the city, to protect the water that's out there while we continue that discussion and while we decide exactly what direction we want to take. One of the things we've discussed is doing something like a requirement that all new development essentially bring water to the table, so that if you have a new project in the city, it's going to require to be serviced with a certain amount of water for culinary and or secondary water, that you will be required to essentially bring that amount of water with your development and give it to the city. The purpose of that includes, water held by the city is protected from being lost to forfeiture for non-use. So water that the city owns can be banked, whereas water that's owned by a private entity cannot. And that's a way of shifting more water into the city's control. It's a way of potentially protecting water rights that are owned in the city from being sold and utilized by other property owners outside of the city, so that our total water resources are not reduced. We've looked at ordinances that have been in place in other cities, and the example that I am most familiar with is Cedar City, which for years has required each new development to bring water rights to the table. That if you want to get a development approved, you have to bring enough water rights to service that development. In some cases, they have an exception where you can pay a fee in lieu. Like, for example, if the property that you're developing does not already have water rights associated with it, they allow you to pay a fee in lieu, which would allow the city then to go out and acquire the water. Ultimately, it'll be up to the city council to decide what we do, if anything. But what we've put before you tonight is essentially a 6-month temporary land use regulation, which states that we're going to be studying the issue over the next 6 months. We may be adopting an ordinance. And in the interim time period, anyone that brings a land use application is going to have to comply with this temporary ordinance. And essentially it says that you have two options while this temporary land use regulation is in place. You can either negotiate with the city on a case-by-case basis as to how you're going to address and cover the water requirements of your new development, or we'll essentially just put your application on hold and wait to give you a final approval until we've determined what we're going to do as a permanent solution. So, you know, we sort of structured this similarly to the way that we did the landscape ordinance. If you recall, we did a 6-month temporary land use regulation there to give us time to get our final ordinance in place. This is very much the same idea. But that's essentially the gist of it, and certainly open to discussion and thoughts, because I think this warrants a lot of discussion. You know, do we want to put a temporary ordinance in place to give us time to do something more permanent? Do we think that's unnecessary and we want to just take the time we need and not worry about the temporary regulation? That's ultimately up to you guys. So any questions about that?
So I have one, just how that would work. Somebody bringing water rights, would the city be responsible to buy those? Is that something they would bring to it and then they would turn around and have to pay a water impact fee?
It would probably work like Rome did, where they brought or they purchased water rights when they bought the property, brought the water rights to the city, and were able to negotiate a discounted impact fee to reduce the outdoor use from the Water Conservancy District. The way the water district is kind of moving right now is they're hoping that everybody has the will serve requirements in place by the first of the year. All the cities that have those adopted and built into their ordinances. And one option in this one would be just to bring a will serve letter for their total water consumptive use to the city as part of their development. So they could go to the county, pay the impact fees, and bring 100% of it. They'd also have the ability to take their existing irrigation shares that may be available in that area and bring those in and offset the outdoor use portion of the water district impact fee, so they only paid the indoor use portion. If they had any culinary quality water, which there isn't a lot of it out there, but if in some case they had some, they could bring that in. But you'd have to have an underground right, that you'd have to be able to drill a well that could be certified culinary by the state and go through a lot of process. It's possible, but it's probably more expensive than even doing the will serve and paying the impact fees. But you'd have the option, and what this ordinance would basically just say, hey, any new preliminary plats that are submitted, whatever we decide, you're going to be subject to.
Yeah.
So you've kind of given everybody a heads up that way.
And I'm just trying to think again. I think in Cedar City, you're taking farmland that has those water rights. They want to develop their land. They have the rights. They give those. I'm just trying to think through. You know, we have a lot of that here, but moving east through the county, it's sagebrush and desert, and
it's not going to be the same in every city. Every city's going to have, you know, probably more reliance from some of the communities on the water district, but a lot of the cities still have their own water undeveloped. We have some water undeveloped that the city owns up in Snow Canyon. So and all the cities are in a different state of their growth. You have cities like LaBerrican, it's like a teenager in the city of development, but they have a huge water that they've had for a long time with the irrigation company over there. Santa Clara has, you know, the irrigation company here controls a lot of water, probably more water than they have the ability to irrigate. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
They own more water rights than they can actually put on the ground. So they have some water at risk. They should be able to keep that water in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
As they develop their properties, being able to convert it to the city ownership, we can bank it forward, put it into the city secondary system and really follow that Roan model closer with the extension of the secondary line up in the northern part of the Heights. We've got secondary water to most of the undeveloped parcels up in the Heights. Our only area of the city that really doesn't have a good access to that secondary system is the developed portion of Santa Clara Heights, the subdivisions that are already up there. The new growth has it. The valley has it, and that section of 10,000 square foot lots. Now, those are the areas that we'll have to work in the future to get secondary into over time to be able to get the use down to that 0.59. I like the idea of kind of putting everybody on notice for the next 6 months because we're going to be changing some things to comply with the water district process and the will serve letter requirements. This kind of puts a few of them on notice, and we do have a couple of them that are thinking about developing in the valley, converting from irrigated and ag to residential, so they'd be put on notice. That way, we're in negotiations right now with Kent Fry on his subdivision. He's already agreed to be able to bring the secondary water he needs for his subdivision to, and then he's offered to sell us his remaining for a fee. And but that's the way this thing's going to work.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I just add one thing to that? One thing I discussed with Kent, and this would have to be something that the council would be interested in, but Kent has expressed an interest in making arrangements with the city to essentially pre-transfer water shares to the city so that they can be banked, but then potentially make those shares available for, say, another developer over here who doesn't have shares to then pay for the right to apply those to his development project. And so in a way, one of the things that this could potentially do, which I think Kent seems to be interested in, I think other water shareholders might also feel this way, is that in a way, we're almost creating a market for those shares that doesn't exist already. So I think there's a benefit to the water shareholders too. I mean, certainly Kent will have to give up some shares to cover what the need is on his property, but any extra shares that he has, this could potentially create some demand for those from other developers that wouldn't already be there. So, I think there's kind of a win-win on both sides, for the city and the water holders. But I think that from my perspective, the most important thing about looking at this is helping that water stay in Santa Clara, because if water rights get sold or transferred to a property owner outside of the city, if the canal company has to take a haircut and water rights are lost and shares are cut back, I mean, that's a loss to the city. That's a resource that we can't get back. And so this is a way of using the advantages that the city has to the benefit of, the water resources, maintaining the water resources that we already have in the city.
Matt, let me ask you a question. This puts a lot of burden on the city to make the transfers and so forth. The Water Conservancy District is the manager of the water in Washington County. What if we required the developer to have his water in lieu? The certificate from the Water Conservancy District supplying the water, they trade their water shares to the district, which keeps the market from going skyrocketing because you've got an entity that manages the entire county. To me, we're getting into a point where if we're going to do this, it's going to create a new job. We're going to have to create somebody that knows enough about water to know the conversion rights and how it's going to work and who's going to get what. Whereas if we just require the developer to bring the water or a certificate, from the Water Conservancy District saying that they'll supply him with the water, a lot of the problem for the city is eliminated. But
Except the water district sells water from here to Virgin.
yes,
Our water could end up upon the Laverican bench.
but the water that the developer needs would definitely be here. We wouldn't have to worry about the developer coming in and having to supply him with water that we don't have. This way, he has to bring the water when he comes in to develop.
Well, yeah, and that's,
But what you're getting in that case is just a commitment from the water district to sell us the water, right?
Right. Basically, you're just saying, we're not going to create any dry lots. Whoever the developer is going to have the water commitment from the Water Conservancy District for his development.
Yeah.
I think we're still gonna do that. They're either gonna bring water and create a secondary system, and we will take that water they bring and sell it back to them in the secondary system. They still have to go to the water district and get all the Coleman.
So, but I thought we were offering cash in lieu. And how do we
They
go
would-
buy water?
They would go to the water district and pay the cash. I mean,
Oh,
that's how we
they
have-
do,
yeah.
not us.
No, we're not buying water for the subdivision. The cash in lieu is, he comes in with the subdivision, if he has no water, he has to go get everything from the water district. Water district is gonna try and limit him to 0.59 acre feet. That's all they're gonna sell that one individual. And so, but they'll sell him the 0.59 acre feet as long as he goes through the subdivision process that we've identified.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason we're proposing this 6-month moratorium is, I shouldn't say moratorium because it's really not. We're still processing applications and whatnot. But I think it's to discuss all those details,
Yeah, devil's in the.
you know, yeah, and figure
it's
out,
given us a deadline. It's just like the landscaping deal. It gave us a day that we had to meet, and that kept us on track through that discussion, and we beat it by 3 or 4 days.
yeah, we did.
I think I think the 6-month study for the ordinance is really required. It's just these ideas of how you run it and verbalize it.
I think during the 6 months, what this does is it creates a situation where it essentially tells each developer that, look, if you want to move your project forward, you come to us and we work something out like we did with Roan. I mean, that's really all it says in the interim. Come to us, we'll look at your project, we'll see what the needs are, we'll negotiate, we'll figure something out. In the meantime, we're going to be working on some kind of a permanent ordinance that will say, this is what we're going to require from every developer,
And
right?
you can look at our ordinance. and
Right.
know what you need to do.
And if somebody doesn't like the idea of sitting down and working something out like we did with Roan, then they can wait and see what the permanent ordinance looks like. You know, I mean, that's really all we're talking about doing for this temporary regulation is putting that into place so we can figure out what we want it to look like permanently. And it may not look like Cedar City's or anybody else's. We may come up with something else, and that's fine too. But this gives us the time to really study it and keeps us on a timeline.
I think it's a great idea.
I think one thing, just going back to the shares, back to they can bank them, maybe a develop. My only concern in that is, again, right or wrong, is what does it do to those water shares? If all of a sudden somebody comes in, is it 30 grand a share? Is it 50 grand a share? Is it 100 grand a share?
It's 20 today.
Yeah. My point being, we just got done talking about affordability and all of that. And so we have to look at that carefully and go, because those are costs that don't change regardless of your permits, your water fees, your all of that, regardless of market status. You know, if lumber comes down, all those costs fluctuate up and down. Your impact fees and water fees aren't going to change. And so all of a sudden you go, okay, that developer is going to come in and, you know, for his development, he needs
One of the
10
good
acre
things,
feet of water at 100 grand. You know, all of a sudden that number is 100 grand because they
But it's-
desperately need the water.
But I don't see it being any different at the end of the day than just no water and go through the district will serve. I see it as an opportunity to keep
Yeah.
some of it more affordable by being able to reduce the water district impact fee that goes up 8-10% a year.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I like how it worked in Roan a lot. And I like going back to the whole keeping the shares here in Santa. We can always down the road, if it gets to where those shares could always be transferred if it ever got to that. But now we've got the ability to keep it all right here and manage it here. We've got the ability to go get the rest of our water out of Snow Canyon, and I think we should. And
But understand, they can't transfer off a drainage to another drainage.
they can if it's reuse,
Yeah.
regional reuse.
Well, I know, but we're talking about irrigation waters
yeah,
But it's all
used in
gonna-
Santa Clara,
it's
off
all
of
gonna
Santa
be
Clara
one
can't
water
drainage.
Going forward. Once that regional reuse comes into play, this canal company irrigation is going to be one water in that system, and that water will go into that system. And eventually, over time, the only way that we can continue to grow is to convert all of that secondary irrigation to reuse water. So you're not going to get Santa Clara River water, you'll get reuse water from the plant. The Santa Clara irrigation water will go into the pipe and head to Warner Valley and get used along the way and then come back during the summer season for outdoor use. That's the future of it.
well, and that's why
And that's why
secondary
reuse
water-
is the reuse plant is so important to us to make sure our contract is enforceable, that we get the water back that we put in.
And the filing of the water rights is moving forward, my understanding. So we'll have the ability to draw that reuse water back, but anybody feel good about bringing this next meeting back to council?
I have one question. Remind me on the application date. It's effective as of the date that they file the application to go to planning commission, whereas the application date effective.
You mean for
Prelim-
land use applications relative to when we
That-
adopt this?
Yeah, yes.
Receipt of a
Receipt of
complete
it.
application.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, let's say we bring this back, I guess it'd be next week. So it'd be the 13th. This temporary land use application or temporary land use regulation could go into effect a week from today, which means that any complete applications you got starting, Thursday next week would be subject to this. And it would last for 6 months. And it would expire either at 6 months or if we earlier adopt a permanent ordinance.
Other questions, council? Good, another good discussion. Item 3A6, discussion regarding city rental property located at 2600 Santa Clara Drive. Is she Brock?
I think Scott.
Scott, Mr. Bannon.
Mayor and council, as you know, we have a property across the street from us, 2600 South, Santa Clara Drive. The residents, Yulan Barkley has lived there for 2.5 years. It's managed by Jensen Property. They do a yearly lease, which costs them $100 each year to renew it. And they were asking if there's any way that they could extend that next lease to a 3-year, to pay that fee one time, Jensen Property of the $100, and have their lease go for 3 years. I don't know if you have any plans for the property in the next 3 years. They wrote us a pretty nice letter explaining some things, but we would leave it with Jensen Properties. Just give them a 3-year lease instead of a 1-year lease.
Yeah, the letter that she wrote actually asked, they wanted to completely cut Jensen's property out and just have work through us. We don't feel comfortable wanting us to fully do property management. So we prefer to leave it with Jensen Property, but if council's okay with granting a 3-year lease, then that'd be up to council's discretion if they're comfortable pushing it out that far.
Council?
I don't have a problem with the lease. I do agree leaving it with a property manager. I don't think our staff should be in the lease.
Slumlord business.
Yeah, I think you've got enough on your plate. So I can understand why they're trying to save a little bit of money, but I do think it's imperative for us to have that. But I don't think we're doing anything with the property anytime soon.
And they've been a really good renter.
No
As far as I know,
problem.
no problems at all. They came
This
out.
would
during-
put her youngest child through high school and they'd be done. So
Council okay with it? Bring it back. There you go.
thank you.
3A7, discussion regarding amendment to the Santa Clara City Stormwater Master Plan. Mr. Mortson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've got a set of culverts under Pioneer Parkway near Red Mountain Drive. And I'm sorry, there's a typo on the application. They're actually sized for a 10-year, not a 100-year. We've got a development up there, Silverado and Black Desert, that's, coming in with plans for the near future. We think that now would be a good time to look at upsizing those culverts. When it floods the Tuacahn Wash, it does overtop the road. We've had to close the road several times. If we could amend the current stormwater master plan, it would be 50% impact eligible to do that project. It shows there the current residential impact fee of $558. New impact fee would be $846. Throw this project into the new master plan. And then the current commercial impact fee of $933 would be up to $1413. Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Dustin, is it really the 1,000-year flood?
No, I just said that was a typo on my
That's
part.
the
It's
100, right?
10 and 100.
10 and
Sorry about that.
Gotcha.
I've lived through 2,000-year floods.
Heard nothing. Portion of this projects will be funded from new development, and a portion by the city will have to fund the other portion because so not the total cost of the project is not in the impact fees because it's an existing structure. The additional width required to facilitate the build out will be included in there. The upsizing the existing structure will be on the city tab. We're looking at a FEMA brick building resistance in the community grant for the project. So we're hoping we can get some FEMA funds to offset the city costs.
Did I catch it? It will be the width of any future development on that road.
Yes.
Yeah, the project will build it out full width through there and then extend the capacity. It surprised us when we looked at the capacity of the existing culverts, how small they were. It made sense based on the amount of times they've overtopped.
To explain all the concrete around
But
the erosion
Yes.
control.
kind of scared me when I saw that. Because this is a major east-west arterial for the city. And so I'm hoping it ranks fairly high on the FEMA list, but there's a lot of projects on that list. Anyway,
We're basically increasing you're proposing just short of $300 per ERU in that, which is, I guess, the full amount.
Mhm.
Yep.
On
Yeah.
that.
that'd be the max. Okay, bringing it back.
Yep.
This will go to public hearing. Rob,
Yes, it has to go to a public hearing.
it'll be a month or so,
Yeah, we talked about the first regular meeting in
August.
August, as Dustin will be gone the end of July.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
thanks, Dustin. Staff reports.
Are we there already?
Chief, you missed a glowing endorsement of you shortly ago. I mean, I got my pen out and we're just waiting for a check.
And I think we all concur with.
I think
with what
everybody
was said.
concurred with
So
what
I
was
think
said.
that's, you missed it, but I think we would all agree.
You can watch it on YouTube.
I don't know what was said, but I'm sure there was other people involved, not just me. I don't have anything to add for a report, except that we ran a traffic survey up on Rachel. We're getting a lot of speeding complaints, and we had, oh my gosh, I've got the actual number. Let me run and get it.
They were all from Ivans, right?
Every one of them. Every one of those people out there. We had quite a few complaints on that street, and we ran that survey up there for a month, and we had 29,300 vehicles go down that street. And we only had we had 1,000 that was between 31 and 35 miles per hour. And we only had about 85 that were above 36. So that's really great. I mean, there's, as far as we were concerned, there is no problem there at all. Almost everyone is below 30 miles an hour. So I've been trying to get to the folks that were doing a lot of the complaining, but I go to their homes and they're never there. So I'm going to just have to send a note to them to let them know. I don't know if you've received any complaints on that. So we took care of that the best that we could.
Is that something we could put in our newsletter? I mean, is that something that's news?
Sure.
I don't know. That's just
That's a lot of cars. We were surprised by
A
that.
very low number.
I'll be happy to send something up to Brock.
And something, I don't know who's
Write it
going to
up.
be in charge of the newsletter now,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
but they did hire some new people, so it'll probably be Gary.
He's got to pay for those generators that he.
Was it the residents on Rachel that
Mhm.
were concerned?
Yeah, right on the middle of Rachel there. And we looked at it. I know he's not unfamiliar to Public Works and the fact that he's put his own speed limit sign out there and a number of things, but he was concerned, and I think this will alleviate those. We put guys up there for a couple hours and didn't get anything. So that's particular that. But I'll write something up for Brock, and then code enforcement's going great. We're finding that a lot of things that people think are illegal are not. And but we're finding that we're getting really good compliance, like I reported to you before. Sergeant Briggs is really good at that with the follow-up. He follows up on what Scott tells him, and so that's going really well. Actually, we still have the problem with the trailers. That's not going away. It's like weeds, and lots of people in for vacations. We get a complaint once in a while about it, some of the vacation rentals, but the parking and stuff up there. But it's comes and goes with the weekend. So it's going really well. That is my report.
Questions for Chief Flowers? I appreciate the text message
Yeah.
that we got about
You
the
bet.
incident, so thank you for that.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. You need to shake his hand on your way by because, like I say, you were glowing. It was halo-ish.
Well, yeah.
Good work, Chief. And thanks, Tom. Okay, Ryan. I thought that was a tie you had on, and so I was going to tell you got all dressed up.
Good evening. Got a few things. We'll start off, quick update, the garden. In the past week, 76 pounds of summer squash, 358 pounds of sweet corn, 7 pounds of onions, 14 pounds of zucchinis, and 25 pounds of cabbage have gone to the food bank from our little garden. So volunteers are doing an awesome job. They're working hard. They just planted a row of pumpkins, hoping to have some pumpkins pop up before Halloween. Next Wednesday is Sherelle's last day. We conducted several interviews last Thursday, and we made a decision and hired Courtney Call to take over her position. She actually started today and hit the ground running.
Okay.
And she's going to be a great addition to the team.
Bring her into council meeting and introduce her.
Will do. The flags, if you've noticed, all the flags are half-staff due to the shooting in Chicago. They'll be down through the weekend. We'll put them back up Monday morning. I reached out to Dale Smith. He's the professor of biology at formerly known as DSU, Utah Tech. He had a relationship with Brad where they would come out several times during the year and do projects for us. We agreed we want to continue that arrangement. Got several dates scheduled in October, November, December, where he's got 3 different classes. So they do all kinds of stuff like making and maintaining trails, planning, stuff like that. They've done a lot of hours over the years for us. I recently met with Tony Coleman. If you know him, you know what a great guy he is and how dedicated to and passionate about he is about remembering our veterans. Talked about Wreaths Across America. He's basically been running that in Washington County for the past few years. He's gone to each city and asked that they take it on as their own. And I talked with Brock about this, and we agree it's something that we want to do, that we need to do as a city. So we'll be looking to form a committee to plan and organize the event and ceremony. This year it's December 17th. So might be reaching out to some of you to organize that. And that's about it.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Questions for Ryan, council? Appreciate your good work, sir.
Thank you.
Gary, tell us a good story.
Yeah. When do you want me to start on that newsletter? I do have some good news. I've been texting Shane Miner with Wheeler tonight. They're still working on getting the 2 new engines up and running. The 2 old engines are up and running. Got the radiator in, and both of them have been running this last week. This week we had to shut them down so they could get the new ones tied in. Without going into a whole lot of detail, the 2 new ones have to run on a clockwise rotation with 3-phase power. It either runs clockwise or counterclockwise. The old ones are counterclockwise. So we had to do some switching, and they're testing it right now to make sure everything's still okay with the 2 old ones and the 2 new ones running together. So hopefully by the end of the week, all 4 will be running. Most likely Monday. We just want to make sure that everything's okay before we start running and generating power. So that is some good news. They're just about there. They have fired up the new engines. They've ran them just to make sure they're running and stuff. But they could not close the breaker in. They're just waiting to get this tie, so they make sure they're tied in with the 2 old ones. The SCADA system that was going to be installed in July, we've decided to wait until the fall, till after our run season. So if they run into any problems, it doesn't interfere with our generation for this summer. So I think it was the best thing for us. Just wait till fall, and we'll have a new SCADA system, and then they won't have to worry about interfering with the run season. We did hire a new employee today. She will start next Thursday. She seems like she'd be a great fit. But I'll bring her in too on probably the following week. Introduce you to her. We're gonna miss Christelle. Hopefully we can pick up the pieces and figure out where she left off. Because there's a lot of stuff she was doing, and it's gonna take a little time. We'll be a little rough first few weeks getting organized, but I think we'll be okay. I think we got some good people hired. We are losing a lineman, Devin Ryder, the one we hired from Idaho. Him and his wife have struggled with this decision for a while, but just with the cost of living, and he actually applied for a position in Boise before he applied here, and did not get that position, but they called him back and said, we have another position open, and offered it to him, and he accepted. So he can get a couple acres up there for what he can get a home down here for. So that's what they're looking at. He says there's nothing with the city. He says, I hate to move. They really love the city and the crews, and it's just a decision as far as cost of living and their happiness. Their families up there, so we'll be advertising for a lineman position. And the UAMPS registration. I know mayor's registered, Krista's registered. If you get time, if you need help, have any questions on it, let me know. So we can get registered for the UAMPS annual conference. And it's in Logan this year. That's about all I have.
Questions for Gary?
Based on natural gas prices, which are trending the right direction.
Yes, they're
you-
going down. It was just like it was 535, something like that today.
So you'll be able to run, assuming at that.
Yeah, our strike price at 535, strike price is at like about $86.
Okay.
So we can run pretty good. Current market price for power today is a little bit higher. It was around 125, somewhere in that area. Like on the 4th, it was only around $85 to $100 because it was a little cooler on the 4th. But yeah, we'll be running them. We also did get an email from a resident called in about a secondary box that was broken in his yard, and he emailed Eric Campbell, and he says he was very impressed that Eric responded within 3 minutes of him sending that email and said, we'll get somebody out there to look at it. And he said that the next day it was fixed, and says he was really, really grateful. He said he really praised the crew, and I just wanted to share that with you. We do have a great crew. They really take customer service serious and want to make sure the customers are happy. So
Talk about the outage.
yeah, that was a big one. I don't have all the labor costs and material costs yet for that to create the bill. But yeah, the power was out for several hours. Does everybody know what happened?
Just saw a picture.
All these guys live in the Heights. I'm the only one.
Yeah.
I was in California. I was reading all about it. Tell me. Sounds exciting.
Down here on the Arrowhead Trail, Larry Moss's crew was wheel rolling along the foundation of the home there with the bucket of the loader up in the air so they could see where they're rolling the dirt to compact it. And the bucket snagged the cable TV line or fiber optic line that's on the pole, and it busted a pole off. And so it took them quite a few hours to reroute the power. First thing they do is try to get power onto as many people as possible before they deal with a broken pole. So they did that and got a lot of the city back on the lower part. And then there was a few that was out clear till it was about 5:30 or so. The last people got, like Riverfront, there's a little single phase line that runs to the south of that development down to Riverfront. And it took them to the end of the day to get them back on. So that was right there by the pole. There's no way they could reroute the power there. So yeah, it was a big one. The guys did a really good job. Dustin's crew came out and helped. We really appreciate their help. They used their vac truck to excavate the hole for the new pole. That's a big help, big time saver, especially when there's all the fiber optics and other underground stuff in the way. So we appreciate his help, and yeah, the crew did a great job. They were a good job.
They did good work getting everything back up based on the damage that I saw.
Well, something like that happens. You're not prepared for it, and it is scary. I mean, you got a power line, you don't know if it's dead or live, and so you take a lot of precautions working on that. And the guys handled themselves very well. They were calm and collected, and did everything right. Nobody got hurt. That's those kind of jobs that scares me as a director. Just, I got to make sure those guys are safe. They did a great job.
So what's the process under something like that? Does the contractor I'm sure it gets billed back to him and goes to his insurance, and
Yep, we'll collect all the information, man, labor, materials, everything, and we'll send the contractor a bill for that.
okay.
There was some claims by some of the commercial businesses that were down. He'll get hit with those as well.
Yeah, and Washington City also came over. We only have one digger derrick, and a digger derrick is the truck that this kind of has a crane on it. You can hold the pole and move the pole to where it needs to be and to auger the hole. So we used our digger derrick to hold the pole that got broke so it didn't fall. Then Washington brought their truck over to help set the new pole. So it was really nice of them to come help. We have a great working relationship with Washington City and Hurricane City, the 3 smaller cities in the county. That if any of us need help, we help each other out. There's no billing back and forth between the cities. We just have an agreement that we're just there for each other. It's a great relationship. So if you see anybody from Washington City,
Already have.
thank them.
I've already think.
Great, thank you.
Gonna cost me a lunch. It'll be worth it. I'll send Brock the bill.
Right. Soon I'll get you the card.
Thanks, Gary.
I do have
Appreciate it.
something
You
for
bet.
Gary. You'd asked me a while ago about charging stations out by Harmon's. And I think I told you not to worry about it, but I'm planning on a vacation right now and we have a plug-in van. And it sure would be nice to have something up at Harmon's, to be honest. I'm going to California where there's a lot of charging stations, and even there it's been kind of difficult to figure out how I could charge my vehicle somewhat close to where I'm staying. And so I really think something up by Harmon's would be ideal if we were going to have it anywhere in the city. And so
Do they have any in any of the resorts? Arcadia?
nothing
or-
shows up. I have an app you can look up, and it's a ghost town in this
Just
part of
wondering if that's
the
something
county.
we want to put into the overnight rental requirements, is that they provide a certain number of those within the project for the people that are coming here on vacation.
And with Harmon's, with Pad A, we had that discussion with Harmon's on Pad A that out there, and when they put in that new row of parking, that probably would be a good idea. They said they would, I thought they said they would look at it. I don't know.
I
They
think
will do it, but
I think they said they have it in some of their other Harmon stores, and if they did it, they would do it, and not the city.
Okay.
The last I remember, I think it was they would do it themselves.
Can you hear me?
Private sector that should.
I had some discussions, gosh, it was going back to January or February with Frank Lundquist with Harmon's. They do have charging stations up north, their headquarters in West Valley and some other locations. He told me that they're looking to put the charging stations in at the St. George location first. And then after that's completed, they would move over to this location. So
Okay.
that's what he's told me, but it sounded like they do it on their own. So
But I think the
that's,
charging station should be in the private sector, shouldn't it? I mean, we're not in the gas station business. I mean, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a mishmash. A lot of cities have their own charging
they
setups.
do. And you get a percentage of the tax.
Yeah.
So
So Gary had asked me if there's any good spots in the city, and we kind of talked about the Harmons. That is close to
So
vacation.
we'll ask him again. It's been 5 or 6 months. I'll reach out to Mr. Frank again. So
And there were like some grants or something we could apply for, I believe.
Yeah, I brought it to a work meeting a while ago, and there are some grants. There was only so much money allotted for the grants, and I don't know how much is left. I can look into that again.
Well, I think, yeah, the Harmon spot would probably be the best anyways, so we can probably just let that process go through. But I appreciate that.
The only other place I thought we discussed was the Goobler Park, where there's baseball games and that all the time. We thought Goobler Park might be another spot you'd put a few of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's close to the vacation rentals as well.
I would worry about vandalism too.
That's exactly
But that would be a city-owned asset.
Maybe we.
But yeah, but you contract it out to someone that operate it, and they would be required to fix it and maintain it, and they'd do the customer support, and we just get a cut of the
You could.
the rental. So I don't know. Maybe we see what happens with Harmon's, then that's kind of plan B, because you wouldn't need two really close to each other.
Yeah.
So that'll work.
Okay. Anything else for Gary? Thank you, Gary. Dustin?
With the new budget in effect, I've ordered a new skid steer and a new mini X for Power and Public Works Department. The equipment these days are taking 6, 8, 10, 12 months to get. Ordered a new crack sealer for the Public Works Department, a new weed sprayer. We've got a new crew truck coming in the next week or two that's taken over a year to get. I've got new traffic signal heads being replaced at the downtown traffic signals next Monday. They've exceeded their 20-year lifespan, and Just hoping to get that taken care of before we have problems with them. We did have 110 plugs put in on those traffic cabinets down there. So when the power did go out, we couldn't power up the lava flow signal. So we were able to get a generator and power the signal through the outage, which was very handy to have. The crew has been out on service line, water line leaks nearly every day the past 2 weeks, which is typical for this time of year. As the usage goes up, all of your weak spots start to show. They'll get a batch of them fixed, and then it's replacing sidewalks that they had to tear out to fix the lines and patching roads. So they've been very busy on that, but stayed on top of them. A few of them have been after hours. They've kept up on them and done a great job. They're out right now fixing some sewer line infiltration, where when we had the system cameraed, we could see where groundwater was coming through cracked pipe. They're digging them up and exposing them and changing the pipe out to keep that groundwater from getting in and making our wastewater usage higher than it should be because it's groundwater.
Where was it, Dustin?
We have one up by Red Mountain, past the Wash Culvert crossing when that got abandoned for Desert Village. I don't think they ever capped the end of the pipe. We're addressing that one. Then there's another one up at Goobler Park. It looked like it got dug through at some point up there when Paradise Village was put in. That's the second one that they're going to be working on. That's the two big ones that we have. And then we have a small one down on Adobe.
Adobe. Where's Adobe?
Near Sagebrush and Rainbow.
Okay. All right. Where the high groundwater is, it comes up in the street once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hired a newest public works executive assistant today. Her name is Jamie Mills. She's a eager spitfire, ready to work. She's worked for Spin Scooter, managed restaurants, worked for some law firms. She'll start next Thursday as well. So I'm very excited to get her on board. They'll pick up some of these pieces that are left undone from Christelle leaving. And I just wanted to jump back to Gary's outage. I was at work that day. I went down, and when your crew can perform, when your supervisors, your boss is out of town the way that they did, that's when you've trained your staff well. And I was so impressed. Those guys did not miss a beat. They were courteous to all the people pulling up and saying, how long is the power going to be out? They stopped. They talked to every one of them. They were nice to them. They did not miss a beat. I just want to commend Gary on how well he's trained his staff. That's all I have. Anything for me?
Questions for Dustin?
Have they started anything up with the fiber installation?
No.
Nothing yet?
No, haven't heard anything since the pre-construction meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dustin. Chief?
Okay, yeah. So 4th of July was relatively uneventful in our city. They had one call on Country Lane. It was resolved by residents prior to their arrival, but we did staff the Ivan station with the engine as well. The guys did some patrol, and the app we have covers the whole county as far as brush fires, but there was over 30 plus fires in east of us. So it was busy, but our town was pretty relatively slow. So that's good. Let's see, as far as the new employees, those guys are started last week. There was an accident here on the main boulevard, Santa Clara Boulevard, motorcycle that crashed, but we had the staffing. Our intent is to try to get 5 people. That day there was the 5, 3 on the engine, 2 on the ambulance. So they were able to transport, and then we had that engine go back in service. So I've been listening to that, and we appreciate that. All that, attention to staffing's been helping. So that basically gets our engine back in service so they can run another call. And it's happening where they're getting, a second call comes out and we have somebody in town. So we're definitely appreciative. Everybody's kind of moving forward with their, they'll do a probationary period. Typically in the fire service, we'll do a 12-month as opposed to a 6-month, and they'll do a task book as they go along. So they'll do a 3, kind of a 6, and then like a 9-month exam. So they're prepping for that. Station wise, the Rachel station, we had some floor cleanings done, but the guys polished the floors, kind of just prepping our apparatus, getting some of it that we can't necessarily maintain all of it and or staff it to sell. Just, we're getting it stored at the Circle station right now. We're having a kind of a plan for that, just having a maintainable fleet and getting some of the fleet that we have, we're trying to maintain it and get it up to par, basically, get things cleaned. And that's really where we're at. Everything looks great. Dustin's crew came over, removed, there was some debris in the back of the station. So we're trying to get that flat. So we can train back there, especially as the probationary guys come in. We want to have that drivable and folks can train behind the Rachel station. So things are looking great as far as that station goes. We do have some capital projects that we budgeted for. We'll get those things going. The station alerting is installed at the Rachel station. There's a few more items that we need to get, just electronics, flat screen TVs, and things that are on back order, but those should be in hopefully next week. Had a meeting today with the fire chiefs in the county, just kind of programming the system down at the dispatch center. There's some things that go into that, just details on hopefully getting our system automated. So it's exciting for us. A lot of things are happening. And then the main thing is the staffing is getting better, and it's awesome to see them be able to handle those multiple calls. So that's pretty much the gist of where we're at. Some technology improvements and those things are happening as well. But any questions at all?
I just have one regarding, we had talked about getting numbers of calls that go outside of the city to the west and kind of trying to put something together that we can take back to the county to justify reimbursement for that. Where do we stand on that?
We met with the county today. I mean, the chief and I and Brock and representatives from Ivans City met with all three commissioners, or two of the three commissioners. And reviewed some of the data. Chiefs can put some additional data together to go back to them. We're going to go back to them on August 9th. We'll have a follow-up meeting with them. It was a good discussion today. I think we got them to the table to talk about money, but we're not close on an agreement yet or a formula to determine. But I think that it's not zero anymore.
It was funny, Tony and I, as we drove out, I was explaining, they respond all the way out here. And then we got talking about Mataqua. And she's, well, where's Mataqua? I said, we're going to take a Mataqua tour on date night. One of these might be a long one. I'll make sure I've got plenty of spare tires and food and water. So, but yeah, it's a long ways out there. And so great. I know that'll be important.
There's a map I'll pass. I think I still got it. It shows our service area is this red box. It's huge. You can kind of see. So we're going to get the numbers together on how many calls and what types of calls that they are. And when we get, and then how we do as far as collections. So what the invoicing is for those calls, how much we get reimbursed, and then take all that back to them. They're checking. They're getting some additional information themselves. And so we're moving towards something. I don't know where we'll end up. Brock's a little more pessimistic than I am about it. But we can do the good cop, bad cop routine during the meeting, and it works out.
You decide who was the good cop.
Oh, I know who was the good cop. So, but I think that's important. Like I said, that's great. That's great news. That's a long way out there.
Would it help if we send emails or support or letters or residents?
After the next meeting.
Okay.
Why don't we
Residents
send
who are
a great
interested in
cop?
it.
Let's put some
Councilwoman.
numbers in their hands, and then we'll apply pressure.
Okay.
I can understand where they're at. You can look at all the other agencies that are on there and what Enterprise does, and Hilldale, Hurricane. And if they give us something, it's going to be like that afternoon, they'll see the other four with their hands out. So they're taking it slow, and hopefully we'll come up with some type of a funding formula that can work into their budgets and help offset some of our costs. That's my goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
We agree on that one. Anything else for Chief? Thank you, Chief. Scott?
Last week, Brock and I went over to the water district and turned in our last lots. Selena and I put some numbers together that we have, that don't require the impact fee. Got that done. Still working on the policy manual, get that finished up.
Did they agree with you?
I don't know if they agreed, but we told them what they get. So,
Sounds like agreement to
sorry,
me.
this is what we have left and that's the way it's going.
That's how I negotiate with my wife.
So, we'll see. So, all the applications were turned into the state for the judges. There's about, well, with the calls I received, 8 or 9 of them. Some highly recommended ones. So we should be getting a list back and be putting that commission or that group together to go through those. So that's about it. We've been working on the building on the other side there to get it ready, move forward over there. And that's all I have really.
Toad asked me the other night, who's the new Glockenspiel dresser?
Courtney Call.
So the new
Parks.
Yeah. And you understand all the magic that goes into that?
And the little SD cards that get switched and all that. Yeah.
Learn it quickly.
Learn it quickly.
And know which season pastels go in. Don't mess up on those clothes. So.
So have Toad get with you or with,
That was a good answer for not wanting to get out of it.
who should Toad contact?
On regards to the Glockenspiel, can work
With
with
Ryan?
Ryan.
Okay, all right, I'll pass that along. Okay, thank you. Cody?
Good evening. Staying steady in the building department for the fiscal year end, we had 130 residential permits. Currently in-house for review, we have 15. Just giving you some of the highlights of my report. Solar, we've had a little surge, no pun, in solar. We have 6 right now in the queue at some point in the review process. And right now there's 416 active permits in work. So from June 1st to June 30th, we had 414 building inspections and stormwater inspections. So we're doing well. Fred's doing a great job with stormwater. We just had some new parts put in him, little procedure he had, and so he should be good for another 100,000 miles. And we're hoping we get 120 out of him. Selena is picking up the pieces, as has been mentioned. So we're happy to hear of the new hires. Building maintenance, Scott covered. I just wanted to touch on how we measure building heights here in Santa Clara.
Here we go.
We're prepared to get schooled, Ben.
I dibs good cop.
You'll have to draw us a picture.
Well, we may need to update this
Want me
because
to help? So
I need a mansard roof system. Make me a mansard roof. Here we go. Height of a building. Woo. The vertical distance from the grade of the highest point of the coping of a flat roof or to the deck line of a mansard roof.
Mansard. I haven't built one of
Or
those.
to the height of the highest peak of the pitched or hipped roof. Now here's where it gets a little more technical. The grade shall be the elevation of the sidewalk at the center point of the sidewalk in front of the dwelling, or if no sidewalk exists, by the crown of the road. So you measure from the crown of the road or the sidewalk to the highest capping on your mansard roof or the highest ridge of your hipped or flat or hipped or pitched roof.
From the center of the lot.
Yeah.
The road.
From the
road
sidewalk.
or the
Any
sidewalk?
questions from
No,
building
but
department?
at the center point of the lot frontage. That's the tricky one. What are you doing, a corner?
Yeah, I would maybe vote to measure from the finished pad, approved finished pad elevation or the finished floor. Maybe when we
There you go.
Built up.
go back and.
You got some work to do there.
And we could probably dissolve mansard roof systems. There's not a lot of those in Santa Clara.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not now.
So does the 30 feet?
I thought there was a question. I thought those wheels were turning.
So the 30 feet works. Again, it comes down to a corner lot. I mean, I'm thinking like my lot.
Yeah.
I'll bet if we went to the front of my porch.
Oh, do a fun one. Go out to the hills.
Oh, yeah.
It's got like 12 feet of fall across it.
Yeah.
They just lost they went from 35 to 25. magic in the building department.
Tell me trending on the building permits, going up, coming down? Consistent? Okay.
Really?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cody. Jim?
Thanks, Mayor. Lots going on in planning and zoning. Some of the highlights this week, as I indicated earlier, we have a Heritage Commission meeting tomorrow afternoon at 4. It all kind of feels the same sometimes after a certain time. We have Kelly Gates looking to do an addition to his home at 1408 Quayle Street. And then we have discussion and approval of a complete home renovation for the home located at 1398 Vernon Street behind Fry's Market. So that's an exciting application. And then we'll be sending a planning commission packet out late tomorrow afternoon. It'll include 5 items for next Thursday. We have the Silverado rezone and project plan on for a public hearing. We have the Verizon wireless conditional use permit, the new application for our existing silo and maintenance building. We have the annual conditional use review for JP Excavating. That's the area up in Black Desert where they have the 3 areas that have been approved in the past for them to do some gravel operations. That's been going on since 2013. And then these 2 items that are on the Heritage Commission agenda tomorrow night will need to proceed to Planning Commission to get their approval prior to a permit. And so that's where we're at. And I think that's all I have at this point. Thanks.
Got an update on Mansford roof, Mayor. It's a change of going from a pitch to a flat or from one pitch to another pitch in the vertical climb, but yeah, we don't see too many of those.
Thanks for clearing that up.
There you go.
It was bugging me.
Hey, Cody, one question I have is, when we issue building permits, do we have a timeline? I mean, from the day they start the floor till a completion date, do we have, is it a 2-year before is there any timeline at all?
No, not, there's requirements that they have to remain constant with the activity, showing progress every 180 days. So they could really stretch it out. There may be something in city ordinance I'm not familiar with in Santa Clara.
I don't think.
But to finish up the exterior, but I'm not sure of that.
Well, and
Jim?
you know, the question you had on the subdivision, was there any on the hill?
As far as the subdivision?
Yeah, the same thing on a subdivision. If you get approval for a subdivision and you don't perform, is there a time frame when you you have to come back for a permit?
Not come back for a permit, but when they start a subdivision, they can't do anything with the final plat unless they post cash bond.
Right.
Or finish the improvements. Case of the Hills, they recorded the subdivision, posted a cash bond, and then stalled it out for 3 years. When we update the ordinance and talk about the will serves, I want to address that. Because the way the water district's talking about doing it, if you remember, is after they give you a will serve, you have 12 months or 1 year to get that plat recorded. So what we're going to see happen is they're going to start down that process with the improvements, and that 1 year is probably going to run out before the improvements are done, especially if they're ordering transformers that take 2 years and sewer manholes that take 6 months. So you're going to have a time where they don't want to go to the back of the line on their will serve. So they'll come in and try and post a bond to record to comply with the water will serve letter. And I want to really beef up that cash bond requirement that we've got in the ordinance. So just put that on your list, and we're going to have some timelines and some, I don't know how, I talked about a 300% bond. A massive bond. Hey,
and no surety bond.
If you've had to deal with we've had to deal with on the hills, Dustin would probably say double that.
I think we're going to see a lot of smaller projects.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of smaller projects and
like a phasing plan and then multiple phases.
So, I mean, I think we'll talk about that going through that update. I think we're gonna want to put some dates in there, but we gotta be careful too, because it's 2 years for transformers.
Well, and a lot of it has to do with us causing the delay rather than them. I think you have to look at that too. But if it's something that they're doing, cash bond ought to be applicable.
We just gotta make it big enough.
Yeah.
You look at the inflation that's happened since they posted this bond, and it ate up 20% of that bond, just the increase in cost.
Yeah, and if they back away, 20% is what we'd have. to
Yeah,
come
but
up
we'd have, at some point in time, we can take the bond and finish it up, but if the money's not enough to finish it, kind of puts us in a hard spot. Now we're supplementing a subdivision. And the residents or the property owners inside that subdivision would have loved us to do that. Because they haven't been able to do any permits. They closed on those lots a couple of years ago and haven't been able to do anything with it.
How were they able to close? Because he put up.
Because they put up the bond and recorded the plat. So we're gonna put some more teeth in that. Anything else for staff, guys? Brock?
Only thing, a couple things I'll add. Court's been quite busy. We talked, chief talked about running those radars, but they've been issuing quite a few citations. A lot of citations have been coming in each week. League of Cities and Towns, just put on your calendars, October 5th through the 7th. Back at the Salt Palace. So it's a week out right after Swiss Days. Or 2 weeks after Swiss Days, actually. And I'll mention Scott's last day, July 21st.
What is going on?
Scott is moving to Minnesota.
His hometown, right?
Hackensaw, just a little bit away, like 10 minutes or so.
So he'll be here for the next council meeting, right?
Yeah, he'll be here on the 13th. That'll be his last. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, welcome back.
Leave again.
Anything else? Chris? You're good? Down?
You're not leaving, right?
I say we make a moratorium on Twitch. I mean, if we're gonna do something.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, they've hired some good people to replace it. We're not gonna miss a step, right?
All right.
Okay, good answer.
Missing that response.
Okay, I think we're done, council, unless you've got anything you want to talk about. And if not, I'll look for a motion. No, we're done. It's a work meeting. No motion required. We're done. Thanks, everybody.
Good work.